Kings and queens, your majesties, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for returning. Trust you and yours are well, and you're loving yourself and all just like always. Many thanks to all of you for the support you give to the channel. Thank you so much to our channel members, to our anonymous supporters, to all of you, my esteemed subscribers. You're loved, celebrated, and of course, appreciated. Something is happening in Africa, and it's my job, right, to bring it to you. Okay? Remember when we were talking about GMO here? And I told you that I was disappointed with some African content creators. If you remember why I said that, please leave a comment. When I was saying that I was disappointed in some African content creators, that was when Bill Gates was traveling African countries and, initiating whatever he wants to initiate. And I was disappointed in some content creators who were advertising Bill Gates' production. Yes, Bill Gates came to Africa. He targeted content creators who are in the sector of food and medicine. So doctors who were content creators, they were targeted. And chefs who were content creators were targeted. Why do you think that Bill Gates targeted food and medicine? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if as Africans we will really understand the game. I don't know. Now, all this information are for educational purposes. I'm not quarreling or fighting with anybody to have accepted or to have defended GMO and defended GMO presence in Africa. But it's just to create an awareness for us all, not to justify the evil that had done, that had happened in the past. According to this young man, the evil that had happened in the past is justifiable, and we should continue that evil and not stop it. Because when you listen to his own explanation to why GMO is healthy, you will understand that he's advocating for GMO and for Bill Gates products. This is the same content creator slash doctor that was seen in in Bill Gates' party, the party he organized for chefs and for doctors who were content creators. And after that party, these same people started advertising Bill Gates productions, from the medicines to the GMO products to food. They started advertising it on their pages. And I knew a day would come like this. Who had done this to us? To him, he's explaining to us according to science. I'm not a science student, I'm not a doctor, so I'm going to roll in the information so that you listen to him keenly, because it's about GMO. There is a rise in the fight against GMO in Africa recently. Just very recent, a lot of youth are beginning to, and I was so happy that the work we started putting in did not go in vain. Remember, it has been long I started talking about GMO here, right? And I was so happy to see that there are African youths who are content creators as well, who started, creating awareness, talking about this GMO and a lot of things, right? It's like the cry of GMO became so heated in Africa so recently. And Bill Gates and his cohorts needed a voice to shut it up. And then they got a suitable voice, an intelligent young man, okay, an educated young man, a man who had the following, the audience, and of course, he was the best person to do the job. And he did the job so well. He convinced us so well that there is nothing wrong with genetically modified organisms, because it was our ancestor who had genetically modified food. That is his justification. Okay? We get killing us with GMOs, killing us with fake drugs, killing us with all this. But the justification of this doctor, this man, this young man, is that our ancestor are those who started it. So, what do you think about this whole situation? A lot of people, the crowd is divided at this point. Some group are supporting him. Some group are against him. Because the group supporting him are saying it's true. We do not have this before. Corn was not the way it was before. Banana was not the way it was before. This was not the way it was before. We are aware of that for a long time now. But they are using that as a defense, as a justification for us for Bill Gates to transport his GMO food to Africa and to circulate the African market with GMO food. That is a justification. And while you're watching this, have it in your mind that the country called Nigeria is a target. And there is a reason why it is a target. When you understand this idea or all these plans of population control, you understand very well why Nigeria is a target. And then other nations, which are huge a number of people or large population, why they are a target for Bill Gates and his people. Okay? And again, have this at the back of your mind that whenever there is an invention, they always target African nation, okay, to, test their inventions. Africa is a test ground for whatever it is that is produced by Europe and the West. This is a kind of evil that is being done to us as the African people. And the painful thing is that we have our own who defend this evil. That is what pains us. So listen to this and leave your thoughts at the section.
GMO! Genetic modified organisms. I see, in my life, I've never seen a particular topic that have caused problem like this topic. One people on one side, another people on one side, they're just having arguments. As a matter of fact, there's nothing you will say about GMO that's going to please anybody, whether for or against. But my job today is to give you the facts on GMO unaltered. Let's go. If you are here for conspiracy theory, please outside the door. That's not why we're here. We're here to learn. Let's start from G, genetic. What exactly does it mean? It simply means genes. Genes made up of DNA that send particular codes to give you something that you can see in an organism or how it acts. For example, when you born your child, there's how you will look at your child. You just know automatically, this is my child. Because if you are short, is there a possibility that that child is going to be short? If you have bald head, is there a possibility that the child is going to have bald head? If your head is like triangle seat, that child is going to have head like triangle seat. One of the reasons why people start to do DNA testing is because they born their child and their child looks like it don't have the same genes that they have. We understand that? Yes. But aside from how an organism looks, there are other certain things that, you might also want, right? It could be that some people they used to fall sick to malaria. That could be a genetic trait. Some people cannot have HIV. That's a genetic trait, right? Now, this is just human being. Hope you know that you can also have these particular genes in plants. For example, some plants have big seeds, some plants have small seeds. Some plants have longer stems, some plants, insects cannot eat it. Some plants, insects used to attack. These are just genetic abilities that plant follow and come. But now, when we say genetic modification, some of us think that genetic modification actually started in 2024, 2025. It's not true. Genetic modification has been there since the days of our forefathers. So your forefathers have been doing genetic modification. Yes, I said it. It's just that they did not have lab. It was not accurate. There was no magnifying glass for them to test this thing. For example, if your forefather was a farmer and he found that this particular plant have big seeds and I want to have big seeds the next season, your father does something or your forefather does something where, selective breeding, in case that plant, make sure he plants only it alone so that they can give him more bigger crops next season. Your forefathers have been doing it. And it might shock you. But there are certain plants that if you see it today, that is not what it was in the beginning. For example, corn. Yes. The corn that you see now is not the corn that was in the beginning. The corn that you are seeing now was actually gotten from a wild grass known as teosinte. Yes. So this is corn. This one you're looking at is a modified corn by your forefathers. Another example of traditional genetic modification is anything from the cabbage family. Broccoli, cauliflower, kale, they were all gone by selective breeding. Yes. Another thing that was done by traditional genetic modification are the current apples that you are seeing now. The current apples that you are seeing now, shall just know that your forefathers genetically modified it. The one you are seeing now is not the one that used to be before. Another one is dog. Yes, woof, woof, bingo. Bingo did not occur in the wild before. It was human beings that selectively bred wolves and then they gave birth to bingo, because these things don't occur in the wild. Now, when we say modification, it just means, oh, there are certain genes that I want more than other genes. So I find my way or interfere in the process that occurs naturally so that I can get that gene more. Is GMO affecting our local farmers? So what that simply means is that if you plant the modified seeds in a place where you have local seeds or very close to local seeds, cross-pollination can happen. Is either wind will carry the reproductive parts of that plant, or insects will go to this place, fly to the other place, and before you know what's happening, cross-pollination can happen here. And if this modified seed is more dominant, it can overshadow the local seeds so that the local seeds can no longer germinate after a while. So that means that local farmer no longer has a choice. If this particular modified seed are the sterile ones, it means that after a while, his seeds might not be able to grow anymore. You have taken that choice away from that local farmer. So yes, it can affect local farming. However, there are other upsides to the genetically modified plants. For example, there are certain areas where you don't have enough rain. Everywhere is always dry, 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 dry. Some of these modified seeds have been genetically modified in such a way that it can grow in those very harsh areas. Another reason why there's also genetically modification in some of these things is pests. How many of you remember when, if you buy beans, there's always carbide inside? That's one of the reasons why they now say, okay, rather than using carbide, let us modify these organisms in such a way that it is resistant to this particular insect, so that this insect can no longer survive where this plant is. It is also done to increase plant yield. In other words, more plants, more production, more harvest for the farmer, more food for everybody, and that's one of the pros. Remember, like I said, we're not doing conspiracy here. It is pros, cons, good, bad, and the ugly, so that you can make your own decision. One of the solutions is that the government can designate areas in which these modified seeds can be planted. That is far away from any local seeds, so that the chances of cross-pollination are very little, giving local farmers a chance. Because some of them have not understood this new technology, and it's only fair that you give them the opportunity to decide what they want to do. This GMO thing that we're talking about now has actually been around since the 1990s, Kengbe. And scientists have been tracking it on and off the farm. So this is not the first time GMO is out. So those of you that are shouting, oh, this is something that is just recent because it's the year 2000, it's not true. Since 1990s, the one in the lab have been sold to consumers. Another concern about these GMO seeds is that a lot of the GMO seeds that are currently in circulation are actually controlled by a few companies. And these companies can decide what they want to do with it. They can say, I'm not selling to the farmers anymore. Some of them can even decide some of the prices that they are selling to these farmers. Some of them can even decide who they are selling to. Some of them have locked their IP and their patents in such a way that sometimes even the farmers are meant to sign contracts to decide whether they continue buying their seed or they use their normal seeds. There is also the concern that some of these modified seeds can actually go into a particular area and actually overshadow the local plants that are already occurring in that particular area, removing biodiversity from the particular topic. Some people are going around saying that GMO seeds, there's plenty chemical inside. Let's say the truth and shame the devil. When you want to make GMO, you carry the DNA. DNA is the, like I said, it's like code, small code that determines, for example, the color of your eye, the shape of your fingers. They carry that particular tiny code. The small, they go inside, find it. And then they kind a cell of a particular plant and then put the DNA inside that cell. Then they will not grow that particular cell that they just put inside the tissue culture, and then this tissue starts to grow. By the time it has now grown, the seed from this one that has now grown is now the genetically modified seed. So as you can see, you have DNA, you have cell, you have plant, you have seeds. Harmful chemical is inside. I don't know where people are getting this thing from. I also think that another people that have caused damage to this particular conversation are the people that are not experts on this issue. So everybody is just opening their mouth to be trying about it. Even me, I'm not an agricultural expert, but I'm trying my best to explain it to the barest minimum so that all of us can be informed. When you're making a decision, you know the decision that you're making, and you're not just flying around with broadcasts that another person just forwarded to you. Which now leads me to the next question. Can GMO wipe out the human population? Like I said very few ago, if you did not skip it, is that GMOs have actually been introduced since the 1990s. That's how many years ago? Almost 30 something years ago. That's when it has been introduced. So if they are wiping out, almost all of us will not be alive by now. You also need to understand that you need to have a balanced view on some of these topics. Yes, we understand that there are concerns. We understand that there are benefits. We also understand that there are ugly parts. Your job as an adult is to understand all these three parts so that you can make an informed decision for yourself.
There is GMO campaign going on online. Like they are forcing it down our throats here in Nigeria now. I don't understand. Same GMO that they rejected in the Europe, that is the same GMO Europe is now bringing to dump here in Africa and in Nigeria for us. And if people now carry on for area, reject, don't even think about it at all. You will render the farmers useless. Now our health self, we go render useless because many of them go sick. Now they hear me, now go sick. Alright, say no to GMO because now chemical. We have our food, we have food. Fix food and herdsmen killing. They are killing our farmers. If they know they kill farmers, we have enough food. All this GMO now, I want they control the food, control everything. You cannot even replant it. So before you know, it will be expensive for farmers to get feed, to get seed to plant. What happened to our normal planting where they pass for us for ancestors? We get plants. There's nothing wrong with our plant. It is working fine. Fix the food and herdsmen killing so that farmers can plant more. We can have enough food to eat. We take concern GMO. It is not a plastic food we want to chop. We eat raw. We are Africans. We day here. We are Africans. We eat raw food. Raw, not chemical. We don't have business with GMO. We are not interested. Take it back to your country. Whoever they campaign for them. Don't worry. Africa is coming for you.
GMO in Nigeria. Let's talk about this topic. This is one of the biggest topics, that is trending right now. And in the midst of this, Aproko doctor is being dragged because he said his opinion as regards GMO and non-GMO. He made a video, he posted it yesterday. And here is the background. Some people have been asking him to say his opinion as regards GMO and non-GMO, that is unfair for him to sit, on the fence as regards this, that he needs to come out. So eventually he made the video yesterday, a lengthy one, and that is why it's been dragged because of the opinion that he said that GMO foods have not been scientifically proven to cause cancer. That is how children of the world have been dragging Aproko doctor, that they knew it all this while, that he's been bankrolled by Bill Gates, and Bill Gates they found Aproko doctor that was the essence of preaching, telling people to eat healthy when he's still going to tell people to eat GMO. Some people are defending him, that he has the right to say his opinion, that since Nigerians were not ready to accept his opinion, that why were they requesting for his opinion. Now some people are saying that now the money where Aproko doctor they collect from Bill Gates, saying that I know too much like this. But honestly, this GMO and non-GMO debate is something that is very huge, and it has been debatable for years, because some people are still against GMO, believing that that it's not a natural way, that the best way is the organic food that does not lead to any form of cancer. And some people are still saying that GMO food does not cause cancer. Not the matter with this.
I saw a lot of drama and discussion about GMO foods, like the genetically modified foods. There are a lot of intellectual argument about its veracity and its damaging consequences on our health and well-being. Of course, globalists always try to explore corporate profit by creating things that will give them absolute control, especially around critical aspect of energy security and food security. We have been discussing about that most of the global conflicts are usually driven by energy security. The entire crisis in the Middle East and even our countries within the Sahel are driven by energy security. And now there is also another crisis of food security. And that is why you see rising food inflation all over the continent of Africa, and that we import more of our food than we farm it, despite the fact that we have the largest land mass, uncultivated land mass in the world. And that, so this is a real issue. And now that we are talking about food security, it is very important for us to understand the historic dynamics of GMO foods in Africa. Recall from our history, places like Zamfara and Funtua in Katsina used to grow very high quality amount of cotton. Also, if you go back to areas around Borno, we used to grow very healthy and strong quality wheat, and even in the areas of Jigawa State. And that is why you see we have so many factories, especially in northern Nigeria, historically. Most of these factories are garment factories where we produce all the clothes we wear. And suddenly, in 1980s, early 1980s to mid 1980s, especially at the beginning of this structural adjustment program, a genetically modified seedlings was introduced in those farms, whereby it was discussed by the IMF and World Bank then that if we farm these genetically modified seedlings, it's going to give us more. That is why you see we have several textile manufacturing plants. In fact, at the last count prior to that SAP program, we have up to 1,500 textile manufacturing between Katsina, Kano, and Kaduna alone. And if you go back to areas like Maiduguri, Yola, and some part of the northeast in Gombe, we also have tomato paste plants. We have AFCON, different production around cotton, where we organize it, we extract the seedlings, we create oil. There are so many oil mills where we produce our normal staple, in Nigeria. This is just within the 1980s. And immediately this SAP program was introduced and this genetically modified seedlings was brought in, those farms died. Why? Because you can't use the seed that you import and replant it again, because the seed are usually genetically modified. So you must constantly go back to Monsanto or other companies that used to sell this seed for you to be able to plant it. And a situation whereby farmers don't have enough money to be able to buy these seedlings, that means the farm will get dry. And that is what happened during that time. It is the reason why all our factories got dried up. In fact, at the peak of that moment, cotton farm alone in Zamfara employs up to 300,000 people. And each of these persons usually takes care of an average of 4 families, meaning about 1.2 million people are directly and indirectly engaged in farming cotton in Zamfara. And immediately those farms dried up, poverty sets in, and that is why you began to see the rise of the crisis that we have, poverty in Zamfara, lack of school in Zamfara, that now metamorphoses into the crisis that we are seeing today. But then Zamfara used to be very rich farmland. Similarly, in Katsina, especially Funtua, everyone knows about Funtua textile and Funtua farms. That is what feeds almost all the textiles in Kano and also textiles in Kaduna. But all those ones got dried up, and that is why factories died in northern Nigeria. And that is why there is a complete collapse of industrial machinery of northern Nigeria. And that also expanded towards the south. And we began to import everything, the clothes we wear, the food we eat, and practically everything, simply because we decided to curry to the interest of some of the corporate profiteers in the global west so that they can set their seats and then make us dependent on it. A similar case also happened in India, where they jumped into the GM seedlings and began to plant in their own farmlands. And as time goes on, whenever they want to plant during another planting season, they will have to go and look for the seed. And it became a problem. And they don't have money. But prior, you just pick the seedlings you planted today, go back and store it, and come back and replant it during the next farming season. But this time around, you have to import it. So the more inflation sets in, the more the cost of goods goes up.